Hey folks, I'm Cuz Strickland, and welcome to this episode of Tennessee Dirt, presented by Mossy Oak Properties Tennessee Land and Farm, a podcast dedicated to helping you find your favorite place. Each episode we'll talk about all things related to land ownership and conservation throughout the great state of Tennessee. And don't worry, there'll be plenty of hunting and fishing stories too. Our goal here is to help each of you live your best life in the Tennessee dirt.
Mr. Cuz Strickland with the introduction. Isn't he great?
Oh, man. Feel like he's right here. Wish he was.
Wish he was here.
Yeah.
Hey, folks. Welcome to the 5th episode of the Tennessee Dirt Podcast, hosted by Mossy Oak Properties, Tennessee Land and Farm. Glad you folks could join us. This has been a fun adventure, Doug. You've done one, Davis, Ty, and we've done a few. We're putting this thing together. We're making it happen.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Wish I could do it every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of run out of stuff to talk about, though. But.
Well, this episode is unique in that we've got a husband and wife. I want to use the word team because in a sense of the word, you guys are a team.
Yep.
But you work for different real estate companies. So today's episode is going to take a little dive into the Kinser family here. So I'd like to just turn it over to you for a quick introduction so the folks know who we have on the podcast today. Take it over, Doug.
Well, since I'm the team captain.
That's debatable.
Just kidding. And
Today.
Today. I don't want to get this started off wrong. We're a team. Sharon's been in real estate for what? How many years you been? Almost 9 years, and I've been in it about 4 years, going on 4 years, and it has been an adventure to say the least. I've watched Sharon do many transactions, and I decided to get into the real estate world because of my love of the land. And I noticed that whenever she was dealing with agents that had land, it was a little more of a challenge, I would say.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of got me started in this, and it's been fun. We've enjoyed it, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Ms. Sharon, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Sharon Kinser. I'm with a smaller boutique firm out of Nashville, and we really focus on residential. So the fact that he really focuses on land and farm has made a really perfect match. And the differences in our business types, models, and everything, that has been fun to compare.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think when I really noticed the difference was whenever I had we would have listings, going on at the same time, and honey, what are you doing today? And I've got to go show some property, and so she's in getting her makeup done, and getting the candles, and she's got to order some, pick up cookies and balloons and whatever that is, and she, what are you doing? Well, I'm fixing to go show property as well, and I'm loading up the side by side. I've got my snake boots. I've got tick spray, and I've got loading my pistol in case there's a snake I don't need to run across. Which you should never shoot rattlesnakes. That's not right.
Nope.
Yeah,
we don't do that.
That's,
nope.
So anyway, it's a very big difference in what we do. Yeah.
The town we live in, the state we live in, and the portion of the state we live in, and that we do most of our business in, Middle Tennessee. As most of you folks probably know out there, we're in a hot market.
Yep.
We're in a hot market. And I don't know exactly what the count is as far as realtors in our area, but there's a lot. There's a lot of competition, quite a few residential, obviously, realtors and business to be had here. Folks are moving to the Nashville, Tennessee area. A lot. Those numbers have been increasing every year for the last 5 years. But tell us why you chose the firm you work for, and kind of, and tell us a little bit more details about that. Ms. Sharon, you go first. You said a boutique firm. I like that word. To me, that means just a smaller, maybe more family type environment instead of a big box realty company where there's 200 agents. You do not work for that kind of company.
Correct.
Yeah.
You nailed it, Jamie. It is a smaller boutique firm, and I chose those words because it is. There are quite a few of us that really actually grew up in Nashville, and we love.
It's a rare breed.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and there's a lot of even deep family history and deep family root connections, and I think that just lends itself to the fact that we are so. We really are intentional about being relational, and that makes a big difference.
I love that. Yeah.
And so we're small in that there are less than 20 agents. We love it that way. We don't want to be a big box. And it just makes it special.
Yeah. More personal.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Every day, really. It's a nicely connected group, and yet I really think in real estate, everyone is very independent, but there's a lot of independence, but yet there's a really nice gelled, very different group of people that come together under that little.
And
roof.
the name of your firm?
It's Tarkington Harwell.
Right. How many folks do you guys employ? How many agents do you have?
Yeah, Tarkington Harwell Realtors LLC. We have we're less than 20.
Yeah. That's a good number.
It's a great number.
I've always kind of wanted to keep Mossy Oak Properties, Tennessee Land and Farm around that because I think you can get too big. And we kind of do this thing like a family here, Doug, as you know. I mean, bring your dog to work, kind of situation. I've always wanted to grow this business that way. I've always said that the guys I want to hire, the folks I want to hire are people you want to visit in a rocking chair outside of a Cracker Barrel. Yep. And that's kind of what we've done. That's, I think, why you mentioned it earlier, your love for the land, Doug. You chose Mossy Oak Properties. It was the perfect fit for you and your lifestyle.
Yeah, and I typically I'm out in the country quite a bit, and I would see the Mossy Oak signs out, listings that y'all had before I came on board, and that intrigued me. Like, what is that all about? And so whenever I started the adventure and getting into real estate, I contacted you guys first,
right.
and I met with you, and it was just an immediate fit.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mossy Oak brand stands alone, but then I met you, and just I had met her broker, Chris Harwell, and I'd listened to. Often what we would do is, and we do this now, is that when you're on the phone with Chris, I'm listening, I'm learning, and I love the way he manages you guys. And then when I met with you, it was like, wow, it's two birds of a feather. Y'all very, very similar in the way you do things, very comfortable. It's just like a big family, really. And so haven't looked back.
Yeah. It's so important to find the right fit too, And speaking of Chris Harwell, he's a great guy. I've known him. We went to Sanford together, Sanford University, and I've known Chris for a long time. Comes from a great family, so you couldn't be in better hands over there. And I mean, I've paid attention to some of the stuff you have, Miss Sharon, and I mean, I know you guys are into some pretty high-end residential listings. I mean, I've oohed and awed over a lot of your listings and really nice places. That's kind of y'all's forte, I believe. You do kind of a lot of luxury residential listings here in the Nashville area, right? What's that like working in that market? And again, I think you also work for builders too, I think some too. So you have new construction a lot of times. Tell us about that. Is it mostly new construction or homes with clients, existing homes, et cetera? What does your listing portfolio kind of look like?
Yeah, you are correct. I personally like to keep a range of types of properties and locations and price points and all, but I have done a lot of focusing and worked with Richland Building Partners in Nashville. It is luxury. They're really known for the modern look. It's a very bold design. New construction at the luxury level is, it's been a really different kind of little niche part of my business, but I've learned so much about new construction and I've loved it, but I wouldn't want to box myself into that either. I really wouldn't. But they've really come in strong and kind of, to me, they were cutting edge, and there's more duplicates showing up in Nashville. Being someone that's from here, I know that has not been a normal thing to see throughout the town, and I will hear people say, "Oh no, not another tall and skinny," and I know what they mean, and I'm always kind of like, that might be one of my listings, but yeah.
And Doug, your listing and you've had quite a few listings, you've had quite a few closings, you've been a really good path here, and your showings and what you do on a day-to-day basis just couldn't be almost polar opposite of what your wife does.
Yeah, totally. If it's what I picked up on quick is, my strength is land. It is. My weakness, residential.
Homes.
Yeah, homes. And so we started, I guess the first listing we had a client reach out to me about listing their home. Mm-hmm. And I went out there and looked at it, and beautiful property, but a beautiful home. And we kind of talked about it, and I said, to do the best thing for these clients would be to have the best of both worlds. And so they met Sharon and myself, and we kind of came up with a plan where, I would kind of focus on the land aspect of the property, and she would focus on the residential. And then so when we would have come folks to look at this property, we were both there.
Right.
And I would meet them at the gate and take them down to the house, and she's standing on the porch and, welcoming them in, and they would go and do the house. And when they came out, I'm outside in the side-by-side, they'd hop in, and then we do the house, the land. And we met, and it was great. I mean, it was great. It gave us a chance to work together, spend some, quality time together. And that's just precious in itself. But our customers or clients, they were just like, wow,
best of both worlds.
Yeah, best of both worlds. And then, by doing that, it evolved, other clients, we had some folks come in that were not represented, did not have an agent, and that property wasn't the list for them, but they were like really kind of connected with us. And so they reached out to us about, hey, could you help us find a place? And so we would actually, on the buyer's end, do the same thing.
Yeah.
She would, I would show up at the side-by-side, and Sharon would show the inside of the house, and I'd take them on a tour of the property.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that, by the way.
Yeah.
I love it when I hear you guys may have a co-listing that you're joining up together. I think there's an advantage, and I think the people out there find comfort in working with a husband and wife team. Not every husband and wife could probably work together.
Although we have a couple, like Abby.
Well, I mean, I work with my wife.
Yeah,
She's
and
very involved.
Erica's with Chris,
yeah.
So there's, and listen, they make us better. They make us better. I mean, so.
Do you look at it as an advantage too, Ms. Sharon?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I really do. And once someone understands where my strengths lie, and same with him, it makes it just, I think you're right. I think it gives them a layer of support. They feel comfortable, and it's a security thing that we're the professionals. We've got that covered. Maybe
we need to figure out like a joint, marketing tool, and have both of the companies, both your logos, both your smiling faces on there. That could be and that could really be something that you guys could market yourselves in this way. Yeah. And this is sort of new. This hasn't been going on for 20 years. This is, y'all are figuring this out in the last year or two, really, kind of.
And I think that if you're looking out for the best interest of your client,
yeah,
absolutely, that's what's most important.
Yeah,
I mean, regardless, I mean, that's the most important thing. And so I have no doubt that we're doing that.
Our clients are who hire us and fire us and put shoes on our kids' feet.
Yes.
So they are the most important thing. Ms. Sharon, what do you love most about being in real estate? What do you enjoy the most about being in this business? Mm-hmm. Is it the fact that it's different every day? Is it the clientele? Is it, you're not sitting behind a desk from 8 to 4? What's the thing you love about it? Because you've been doing this a long time, longer than a lot of us.
Thank you, Jamie. What he said.
She gets to see her husband. That's what it is.
You really hit all the points that I would have mentioned. I think that I do love that it is different every day, but I'm also going to pair that with, and we are in a season of life that is affording me to be on call 24/7, and that's kind of the side of real estate a lot of people either don't know about or don't talk about.
Right.
But to have a cell phone almost become an appendage, you are really at, but that's the only way I know how to do business too. I mean, if it's not me, they're going to click on to someone else, but I want my clients to know I am accessible almost around the clock. And sometimes it's hard to find that balance, how to cut off from things and people, but I love the being different. I love this watching someone be satisfied as they move to their next chapter. You're helping them either sell their house and be able to move out of town, or you're watching them come to a new place, and all the things to follow as well.
This podcast is really kind of focusing on the difference between residential and land, and bringing together two folks that happen to be married. They're both in the same profession, do a great job in their respected lanes, if you will, land versus residential. And there's a big difference in those two. Mm-hmm. As all of us here at Mossy Oak Properties know, there's a big difference in selling a 100-acre tract of land versus a $2 million house in Green Hills. Yep. Let's talk about some of the main differences. Now, we have our own thorns and headaches with land. We do. But in my opinion, a whole lot less than the things that you could encounter in a residential transaction. You agree, Doug?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Land, it's to me, first of all, when I go to a property, I mean, I typically always try to get there before the clients do, always, so I can get a kind of somewhat of a feel for it and look at it, through my eyes first. And also, before I go to the property, I break it down. What's that look like on a map? What kind of topography do you have? Is there a water feature? What do you have that's close by? What type of amenities? And so, it's a lot easier. But when I go to a house, if someone asks me what type of countertop is that, I that looks like that's rock to me.
Looks pretty solid to me.
Yeah,
folks.
I mean, boy, I think you can gut a fish on it, but no. Anyway,
you can gut a fish on it. There you go.
But you ask me what type. I mean, that's just not my strength. And we're it's very evident. Right now, we've been looking for a new house. And so when we go to look at a property, first thing I do is I'm walking around the house. I'm looking at the property lines. I'm looking
everything on the outside.
What kind of trees do we have? On the outside. Yeah. And then when we go in the house, I'm boom, 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 boom. And so. It's less of a challenge for me for sure on the landing end.
Not that we have it easy. I mean, we have surveys, easements, riparian rights. We have a lot of things that go on in land that you may not necessarily ever deal with, right? But I know for a fact there is a lot to deal with when it comes to a home, particularly like a home inspection. Our inspections will look different than an inspection on one of your luxury listings. Some of the things that you run into on the residential side that make it difficult, you've learned probably what all those are. You're kind of someone we even call when we need help. I know Doug does too, but you got a lot of things in residential that we don't have to deal with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I would agree.
So challenges for folks that are coming to town, buyers in this area on both the residential side, and we'll go to you, Sharon, first. What are some of the challenges that you see when somebody's moving from, say, California, Chicago, New York, New Jersey? We've moved a lot of those folks in. What kind of requests are you getting when you meet a family for the first time and they say, "Hey, here's my budget. Here's where I'm looking for. Lead me." How do you start that process with them?
Yeah, I do think there's we want to move to Tennessee and we want land. And so I feel like that is a reoccurring request. And they either want 5 to sometimes 20 acres or they don't even know. And I think that there's a misconception that you can just show up here and have land and it sort of takes care of itself. People don't think about mowers and tractors or all the things that come with land. But then also just even really dialing it into a residential setting. If people are not from here, they're not familiar with things like maybe radon, maybe some mold or microbial growth. And that I have witnessed that just the discovery of that through an inspection can send someone away running immediately. Now, fair enough, but you can mitigate it, but that's such a residential thing. You would not encounter that in a land situation. But those are objections. They're real objections. They're challenges. In Middle Tennessee, we live in a basin. I always tell them we live in a basin. And so there's going to be things are kept in the air longer here. Right. You can look at the topography of our state, and it is very evident. So.
Yeah. And you can look at Zyrtec sales at Walgreens and know that we live in a pollen-infested portion of the state.
Yeah.
Doug, same question to you. Now, in this, I'm going to get a little more specific with you because I'd like you to hit on like the buyers you had for the bison farm that you sold.
Yeah.
You met those buyers. You kind of had sort of a checklist of things that they were looking for. Tell us about the challenges sometimes when you start working with buyers, particularly that particular family.
Yeah, not many people have worked with folks that want to put in a bison farm. And so I had to kind of learn, okay, so what do we have to have on this property? Well, we need to have a water source.
Right.
It needs to be pasture.
Year round.
Year round, yeah. And it needs to be plenty of pasture.
There's a big difference in a spring-fed pond and a wet weather pond. Yeah. And a lot of people don't even know the difference in that, by the way.
Just because you see a blue line on a map doesn't mean that there's water there.
That's right.
And so, we had to have a year-round water source. We needed to have plenty of open ground. It needed to be, the ability to be fenced with specific type fencing. You just couldn't put up a 3-strand barbed wire fence and hold in bison. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we had to know what that was about. And so we went through and we found, it was a lot of different properties, but a lot of the times I was able, before we would have to step foot on this property, I was able to pull up, maps and look at it and look at the topography, look at, what type of pasture features were on there, where was the water, and I could call the agents and I could get a lot of that information before we ever stepped foot on it. And it saved us a lot of time, but we still saw some unbelievable properties. Unbelievable. We finally found that one. And it was no doubt. I'll never forget it. Tennessee was beating Alabama that first time when we took down the goalpost, and I got the call, and they said, "Yeah, this is it." So so it was a big, good day.
Of course, you remember that.
Yeah, oh yeah. So anyway, we won't talk about Florida. But,
the listeners have no idea what you're talking about, but we digress.
He's a big Gator.
Born and raised Floridian. I'm a cracker. I'm a swamp.
Congrats on your natty too, by the way.
Thank you.
I want to say that for the world to hear.
Wow, Doug, that's very nice of you.
Yeah.
I was there in person. I saw it. It was good. Have you? Oh no, you haven't. Never mind. But,
well, 98, but I'll digress. I was there.
Whole different podcast, my friend.
Yeah. Sorry, we got off on.
But did your buyers know that was it the moment they drove on the property with you? Did they know right away that was the farm? That was where they were going to build their forever place?
Because we had been through enough properties, and when I sent them that one, it was off market property. And I talked to the agent, and so they were able to, they knew I was out of town, and we had developed a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
That was they're friends now. Matter of fact, can I share this?
They're still friends.
They're still friends, but they're wonderful friends. And so they called and said, "Hey, can we, you think we can just drive by the property and just, so I called the agent, halftime of the Tennessee game, and he said sure. And by the time the game was over, I got the phone call. We're celebrating, and then they said, "This is it. We want to make an offer."
That's awesome.
And so now we're going to do a podcast with them at another point, and they will let you know. It's unbelievable. You've been on it, you haven't seen it since the bison run.
I have not been there since the bison have been delivered. They had them delivered from out west somewhere on Kansas.
Yeah, Sharon was there, and another agent from y'all's office was there as well, and watching the bison, and it was kind of like culmination of a dream come true for them. Just seeing those bison run out there on the property, and it's just and I every time I get a chance, I'll drive by there because it's just like it's like a home to me too. I'm just so thrilled with what they've done and how happy they are, and it's just changed their lives. So yeah.
Doug represents a buyer and they deliver a herd of bison. You represent a buyer and they bring out their 2 chihuahuas and go inside their $4 million house in Green Hills.
Or show up with their chef.
The chef.
Their G-Wagon.
I bet you have some really interesting stories. Well, those are some, those are great points about buyers and challenges. What about with sellers? Representing a seller, what are some of the challenges in this area and in this market for sellers right now, Ms. Sharon?
Yeah, wow. And you kind of spoke to this earlier with your group. We're seeing the same thing in residential. I have several sellers who bought in 22 or 21. And, Nashville, the Middle Tennessee area was really on a wave, I call it.
Right.
And that was kind of the height of the wave. And so they bought at that time, and they kind of conceptualize that it's just going to keep going up, or it's definitely going to stay there, right? Well, some of these properties are sitting a little longer because they're not able to get either what they paid, certainly not going to get more, and that's just kind of where we are right now. So there's some sellers who feel that the properties are worth more.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
We did talk about that in our staff meeting earlier, and I think that's all about conversation on the front end and really setting expectations. We do it on our side too. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks their property's worth more than it is. That's not everyone does.
Yeah.
And how you handle that on the front end for sure. And also we talked about earlier, sometimes we don't take listings. And some of the best business decisions you can make in life sometimes is business that you don't take.
Sure.
But if someone thinks their property is worth X and you all the facts and comps are showing it's worth Y, sometimes is it worth taking that listing? That's a whole different conversation, but those are the kind of challenges that you're talking about with sellers, especially in a hot market like Nashville that saw so many inflated prices. And guess what? People were paying them back then. They were paying them, especially in land. So that's great. The current market here, we've hit on it a little bit again, Nashville, Tennessee. What about inventory right now, Ms. Sharon? Is there more houses than there are buyers? Is there a lot of inventory right now in the residential market, or is there a need for more inventory? Are there just more buyers out there than houses to purchase?
Yeah, so I'll start with just on a personal note. I was really buyer heavy last year. This year, I'm very listing heavy, and it's just interesting how the pendulum changes. I think there's plenty of inventory. I'm seeing, and I'm also, when I watch, I see reductions. I see days on the market being longer when it isn't priced right. So
Right.
I feel like there's a lot of inventory, but a good amount of that could be for pricing reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Doug? And as far as land?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've set more listings now than I have buyers.
Yeah,
and it's just same thing. And I think that it's definitely a more of a buyer's market now than it was.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And those listings that we have that have some of the features that people, swoon over, the creeks and the Kentucky landscape, 4-rail fencing and, that those views, those kind of things, those properties don't tend to stay on the market very long, no matter where we're at.
Exactly.
I mean, those properties, and I those sexy features, if you want to call it that, those properties, sometimes we list those and they're not on the market more than 2 days.
Right.
So there is a big difference there, and interesting how this market's. But we have listings where we haven't gotten a phone call on them as well. So, well, that's interesting. I love talking to you guys. I love hearing this. You guys, your family, you have a great family. I know you both have 2 kids. They're off doing great, successful things, right? And congratulations on that. But overall, working together is something that I see you guys doing more of. We want more of the Kinser folks together. It's really easy for us to co-list with you. It doesn't really matter that it's one company over here. It's the team, and I love that, and I hope we get to see more of that from you guys.
Yeah. And it's about the client.
Again,
I just go to that. I mean, I think if you do what's best for your client, that doesn't really matter. Good things are going to come.
Y'all have a listing right now. I believe we can probably pull it up. Tell us a little bit about the listing you're co-listing together now, and where it's at. Tell us a little bit about it.
This was a listing that we actually went to back in the fall with some buyers that we had met through another listing that we had, and I met the landowner was actually out there showing the property, because he had an agent, great job, but that she did a lot of the residential, but he was showing the land, and so he asked me. He said, "Are you, what do you do? Where do you, where did you come from? Whatever." And I kind of told him what we did, and that was it. And so I guess it was probably they never sold the property, and he called after the first of the year where that listing agreement had expired, and he asked me if we would be interested to come out and list their property. And so we certainly were. And it's in Dixon. It's Thompson Road. He's basically got a home, really nice home on this beautiful hill with 2 ponds, and he's got 11 acres with it, and he's got an additional 48 that he's selling off on the other side of the track. He had 21 acres that we sold off not too long ago with Davis, and I worked on that deal together.
Right.
But it's the same kind of deal. Sharon shows the house, and then I'm out there in the side-by-side and give him the tour of the property, and it's just it's a wonderful, wonderful place. Beautiful property. Beautiful.
Yeah, so I've seen pictures of the house, and I think we're showing some now on the podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the house.
Yeah, I mean it's a newer build, and so it's really nicely appointed, and it's very open. I think that they have enjoyed being out, but have a really nice home, and then they overlook this just beautiful open space. And I think now that we've broken up the property in a different way, I think it's been a little more appealing, and someone isn't taking care of so much land.
Right.
But it's a beautiful home.
And Dixon's a short drive from Nashville.
Yeah.
So we
sure.
really like Dixon. Well, last point, advice for anybody out there. Again, I love the fact that we can have both of your objectives on this in 2 different real estate firms, 2 different lanes. I love that, and to see y'all come together and list properties and represent the client, like you said, Doug, is so really cool. Leave us with some advice for prospective clients. Somebody's coming to town. They call you this afternoon, Doug. They're looking for 100 acres. Give us the 60-second spiel before you really get into it with them. What kind of advice are you giving them?
I would try to learn kind of what's important to you in a property.
Right.
You know, what do you what would you like to see on that property? Do you want a water feature? Do you need to be, how close do you need to be to an airport? What's your end goal? Do you want to row crop it? Do you want to put cattle on it? What is it that you're wanting from a property? And then there's a lot you can learn just by looking at maps, and just say, hey, this is, closer area to Nashville than I want to be in, or you look further out, but do as much homework as you can up front. But then, man, turn it over to us, and we'll make it happen for you. We'll put boots on the ground, and we'll go look at it, and we'll find you that place.
It's awesome. Yeah. Same question, Ms. Sharon.
Yeah, a lot of the same things, except, and even just a quick moment on some of the terminology. It's so funny, but a lot of the same things would apply. It would be more like, do you know where do you have young kids? Do you need to be near a certain school? The airport? What about your shopping? What's your hub in life? Do you want to be in a neighborhood? Do you want an HOA? Do you not want an HOA? What's your square footage? What's your bedroom minimum, maximum? Do you need neighborhood amenities? It's just, there's a whole litany to really address. But then, for me, like if I talk about something like a nest, for you, it's like a bird nest or a eagle nest. And for me, it's like a security system.
Is that what that is?
That's a great point.
I mean, or like if I'm talking about like maybe a heated towel rack, and then you're like, if you hear rack, you're like, well, a rack of deer or a deer rack or whatever. I mean, it's just some of the trade outs there are really comical, and yet a lot does overlap, which we just kind of talked about too.
Oh, that's a great conversation. I love this. So interesting to get the two viewpoints, and then to know that you probably talk about this over dinner sometimes, or maybe you keep business out of the everyday family life. Who knows?
It's funny because our daughter is actually working with she really loves the fact that she can work, watch what we do and share it together. So I think it's really interested in, her. So we'll sit down together and talk about our day, and she gets a big kick out of my day, our days really, but mine tends to be, you never know what's going to happen out there in the wild of the world. So
I love that part.
It does make it to the dinner table, Jamie,
it does,
because it's just we're so in it.
Yeah.
We live it, breathe it, sleep it.
That's awesome. Well, you hunt with Doug very much on a different topic. I know I've hunted with Doug quite a bit. Do you get to go hunting? Do you enjoy it?
I don't really go. I'm more of like a tennis gal if I'm going to have some free time, or I'm just more of a sporty. However, I've got a great shot.
Yeah.
And I've proven that. And it's kind of like, all right, I'm out. Mic drop.
I'm going to tell a quick story, and this won't take long. We'll kind of wrap it up with this. But when Sharon and I went our first date, one of our first dates we went on, I was going to cook her dinner, and she came out to the house, and, she wanted to know if we wanted to throw football, and I said, sure. And so she has a football in the back of her car, and little did I know that, her dad was, a pro football player and played at Vanderbilt, and so she gets the football out, and, a 30-yard rope, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I throw it back, and mine's like quack, 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 quack. And she was like, you played defense, didn't you? And I was like, yeah. And then the next thing I said, okay, well, I'm going to, show her what I'm good at. She showed me what she's good at. I'm going to show her what I'm good at. We're going to go shoot, So I had a little, 22 rifle. You want to shoot? Oh, yeah, I'll shoot. Had a little 22 rifle and had a little target set up. And, she freehands 5 shots that you can put in a dime. I'm talking about, now I'm not making this up, and I'm going, whoa, I have met my match and I found my match. So anyway, awesome.
That's a great story. She throws a ball further and straighter than you with a tighter spiral, and then she beats you on the target with a 22.
That's right.
That's awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure to just sit down and visit with both of you. I think this has been really neat, introspective. I hope people will find this helpful and interesting to see the 2 points of views. Thank you both for participating in this. Look forward to the podcast with the Bison Farm folks. I think that's going to be a really interesting episode. Look forward to that. But thank you both for stopping by. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work, and we will see you guys next. Thanks again. Jamie Spencer's my name. Mossy Oak Properties, Tennessee Land and Farm. This podcast called Tennessee Dirt, sponsored by Mossy Oak Properties, Tennessee Land and Farm, and we'll see you next time.
Can I do this now?
I think that was supposed to be the first thing you did. That's okay.
Okay, well.
All right. Enjoy, guys. See you next time.
See you.
Hey, thank you for listening to Tennessee Dirt, presented by Mossy Oak Properties, Tennessee Land and Farm. And be sure to visit us at mossyoakproperties.com to connect with our team and our collection of listings located throughout the state of Tennessee.